How to Accept Negative Emotions, a Buddhist Approach. Beloved seekers, does a tempest rage within? Do waves of anger, fear, or sorrow threaten to capsize the ship of your soul? If the answer resonates, know that you've arrived at a sacred harbor. In this sharing, we embark on a journey illuminated by the timeless wisdom of the Buddha. We'll explore how to lovingly embrace these challenging emotions, not as enemies to be vanquished, but as sacred messengers guiding us toward profound liberation. By the journey's end, you'll possess practical, heart-centered tools to alchemize these perceived negative energies into radiant seeds of self-discovery, compassion, and unwavering inner peace. Are you ready to step onto the path? Let's begin this transformative pilgrimage together. So often, we are conditioned to label emotions as good or bad, positive or negative. This very act of judgment creates a separation, a division within ourselves. But what if these so-called negative emotions are not enemies to be fought, but rather messengers arriving with vital information? Imagine a light flickering in a dark room. The light itself isn't inherently good or bad. It simply is. However, the light helps you see the obstacles in the room, the edges of the furniture, the potential hazards you might trip over. Our emotions are like that light. They illuminate aspects of ourselves and our lives that we might otherwise overlook. They shine a spotlight on wounds that need tending, on needs that are unmet, on shadows that long to be integrated. We chase happiness as if it were a destination, a fixed point to be reached and forever maintained. But the Buddha taught us that all things are impermanent. Just as the seasons change, so too do our emotional landscapes. To resist the natural flow of emotions is to wage war against reality itself. It's like trying to hold back the tide, an exercise in futility that only leaves you exhausted and frustrated. Consider a mountain stream. It flows effortlessly, navigating around rocks and fallen logs. It doesn't resist the obstacles. It adapts and continues its journey. Our emotions are like that stream. They are meant to flow, to move through us, carrying away what no longer serves us. When we dam that flow, we create stagnation, a breeding ground for suffering. When we suppress our emotions, we are essentially holding a beach ball underwater. We expend enormous energy trying to keep it down, only to have it eventually burst to the surface with even greater force. This suppression can manifest as physical ailments, chronic anxiety, or sudden, explosive outbursts. It's like damming a river. The water may be contained for a time, but the pressure will eventually build until the dam breaks, causing widespread damage. We might tell ourselves we're being strong by ignoring the pain, but in reality, we're only postponing the inevitable reckoning. The unacknowledged emotion festers, growing stronger in the shadows. Instead of suppressing, we can learn to observe our emotions with curiosity and compassion. Imagine you're a scientist studying a rare and fascinating specimen. You wouldn't judge or criticize the specimen. You would simply observe it with a sense of wonder and interest. Approach your emotions in the same way. Notice their intensity, their location in your body, their accompanying thoughts and sensations. Become a detached observer, a witness to the unfolding drama of your inner world. The foundation of Buddhist practice lies in the Four Noble Truths. These truths offer a profound map for navigating the complexities of human suffering, including the suffering caused by our relationship with emotions. They are not meant to be abstract philosophical concepts, but rather practical tools for living a more peaceful and meaningful life. The first noble truth acknowledges the existence of dukkha, often translated as suffering, dissatisfaction, or unease. Dukkha is inherent in the human condition, arising from impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and the illusion of a separate self. It's not about wallowing in misery. It's about honestly recognizing the presence of discomfort, both physical and emotional. It's about acknowledging that life is not always easy, that pain and suffering are inevitable parts of the human experience. Imagine you've just lost your job. The initial shock and fear are overwhelming. Denying these feelings won't make them disappear. It will only prolong your suffering. Pretending you're fine when you're not is like putting a bandage on a deep wound. It might cover it up for a while, but it won't heal the underlying injury. Acknowledging dukkha means saying, Yes, this is painful. This is unsettling. This is creating anxiety within me. It's about giving yourself permission to feel the full range of your emotions without judgment or self-criticism. The second noble truth points to the origin of suffering, which is tanha, craving, and avidya, ignorance. We crave things to be different from how they are. We cling to pleasant experiences and push away unpleasant ones. We operate from a place of ignorance, believing that we are separate from everything else, rather than interconnected with all of life. We build our lives on a foundation of desire, constantly seeking external validation and fleeting pleasures, never truly finding lasting satisfaction. Continuing with the job loss scenario, your suffering might stem from craving the security and stability of your previous position. You might be clinging to the identity you derived from that job, or you might be resisting the uncertainty of the future. Avidya might be playing a role, causing you to believe that your worth is tied to your career success. You might be comparing yourself to others, feeling inadequate because you don't have the same job title or the same level of income. These cravings and attachments fuel the fire of suffering, keeping you trapped in a cycle of dissatisfaction. The third noble truth offers hope. It states that suffering can cease. Nirodha is the possibility of liberation, of transcending the cycle of craving and aversion. It's not about eliminating emotions altogether. It's about changing our relationship to them. It's about recognizing that true happiness doesn't depend on external circumstances, but rather on our inner state of being. The cessation of suffering in the job loss situation doesn't mean magically finding a new job or erasing the pain you're feeling. It means letting go of the craving for things to be different, accepting the present moment as it is, and recognizing that this experience, like all experiences, will eventually pass. It means understanding that your worth is not tied to your career, and that you are capable of finding happiness and fulfillment in other areas of your life. It's about finding peace within the storm, knowing that you have the inner resources to navigate any challenge that comes your way. The fourth noble truth outlines the path to liberation, known as the Eightfold Path. This path is a practical guide for cultivating wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline. It's a roadmap for living a life of purpose, compassion, and inner peace. While each element of the path is important, several aspects are particularly relevant to emotional liberation. Right mindfulness is about paying attention to the present moment without judgment. This involves observing our thoughts, feelings, and sensations as they arise and pass away, without getting carried away by them. It's like watching clouds drift across the sky. You notice their shapes and colors, but you don't try to hold onto them or control them. You simply let them pass. Right effort involves cultivating wholesome qualities and abandoning unwholesome ones. This involves actively choosing thoughts and actions that promote well-being and reducing those that lead to suffering. It's about cultivating kindness, compassion, and generosity, and letting go of anger, greed, and hatred. Right concentration is about developing mental focus and clarity through meditation and other contemplative practices. This allows us to see our emotions with greater perspective and respond to them more skillfully. It's like sharpening a knife. The sharper the knife, the more easily it can cut through obstacles. The more focused our minds, the more easily we can cut through the illusions that cause us suffering. The analogy of the river and the leaves is powerful. Imagine yourself sitting on the bank of a vast, flowing river. The river represents the stream of your consciousness, constantly in motion. The leaves floating by represent your emotions, fleeting, impermanent experiences. When a leaf catches your eye, you might be tempted to reach out and grab it. This is like clinging to an emotion, trying to hold onto it or prevent it from leaving. But the river is always flowing, and the leaf will eventually be carried away, whether you like it or not. Trying to hold onto an emotion is like trying to grasp smoke. It slips through your fingers, leaving you empty-handed. Instead of grasping, practice simply observing. Notice the color, shape, and texture of the leaf. Acknowledge its presence without trying to control it. The river flows naturally, sometimes gently, sometimes forcefully. It encounters obstacles along the way, rocks, fallen trees, and other debris. But the river doesn't fight these obstacles. It adapts and finds a way around them. Our emotions are like that. They will sometimes feel gentle and pleasant, and other times they will feel intense and challenging. The key is to allow them to flow without resistance, trusting that they will eventually pass. Resisting an emotion is like pushing against a strong current. It only tires you out and prolongs the struggle. Equanimity is the ability to maintain a sense of balance and composure in the face of both pleasant and unpleasant experiences. It's not about suppressing emotions or becoming indifferent. It's about cultivating a deep sense of acceptance and understanding. Equanimity allows us to witness the flow of our emotions without getting swept away by them. It's like being a steady anchor in the midst of a storm. You remain grounded and centered, even as the waves crash around you. Now, let's delve into some practical tools that you can use to navigate your emotional landscape with greater awareness and compassion. These tools are not meant to be used as quick fixes or magic bullets, but rather as practices that you cultivate over time, gradually developing your capacity for emotional resilience and inner peace. Mindfulness meditation is a powerful practice for cultivating present moment awareness. It involves sitting quietly and paying attention to your breath, your body sensations, and your thoughts and feelings as they arise. When an emotion arises, simply acknowledge it without judgment. Notice how it feels in your body. Where do you feel it most intensely? Does it have a color, shape, or texture? Don't try to change the emotion or make it go away. Simply observe it with curiosity and kindness. Imagine you're a detective investigating a mystery. You wouldn't jump to conclusions or try to solve the case before you have all the facts. You would simply gather evidence and observe the clues, allowing the truth to reveal itself. You're feeling anxious about an upcoming presentation. During your meditation, you notice the anxiety manifesting as tightness in your chest and a churning sensation in your stomach. You acknowledge these sensations without judgment. You simply observe them, allowing them to be present without getting carried away by the anxious thoughts. You might even say to yourself, anxiety is here. I acknowledge you, anxiety. This simple act of acknowledgement can create a space between you and the emotion, allowing you to observe it without getting overwhelmed by it. Metta meditation is a practice for cultivating compassion and loving kindness towards yourself and others. It involves silently repeating phrases of goodwill, such as, may I be well, may I be happy, may I be peaceful, may I be free from suffering. You can start by directing these phrases towards yourself, then gradually extend them to your loved ones, your acquaintances, and eventually even your enemies. This practice can help to soften your heart and cultivate a sense of connection with all beings. You're feeling angry at a colleague for something they said. Instead of dwelling on your anger, you can practice metta meditation, directing phrases of loving kindness towards your colleague. May you be well. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be free from suffering. This practice can help soften your anger and cultivate a sense of empathy. You might even begin to understand why your colleague said what they said, realizing that they too are suffering and acting out of their own pain. Journaling can be a powerful tool for processing your emotions and gaining insights into your patterns. However, it's important to approach journaling with self-compassion, rather than self-criticism. Write as if you were speaking to a dear friend who is going through a difficult time. Offer yourself encouragement, understanding, and acceptance. Don't judge your thoughts or feelings. Simply allow them to flow freely onto the page. You're feeling ashamed of a mistake you made at work. Instead of beating yourself up, write in your journal as if you were comforting a friend. It's okay to make mistakes. Everyone does. You're learning and growing. Be kind to yourself. This practice can help you to forgive yourself and move forward with greater self-acceptance. Physical activity can be a wonderful way to release pent-up emotions and connect with your body. Yoga, Tai Chi, and Qigong are particularly beneficial, as they emphasize mindful movement and breath awareness. Pay attention to the sensations in your body as you move. Notice any areas of tension or discomfort. Breathe into those areas and allow the tension to release. You're feeling overwhelmed and stressed. Instead of reaching for a distraction, take a walk in nature. Pay attention to the sensations of your feet on the ground, the feeling of the breeze on your skin, and the sounds of the birds singing. Allow your body to move freely and naturally, releasing the tension and stress. Connecting with nature can be a powerful way to ground yourself and reconnect with your inner peace. Don't be afraid to seek guidance and support from trusted friends, family members, or spiritual teachers. Talking about your emotions can help you process them and gain new perspectives. A therapist or counselor can provide a safe and supportive space for exploring your emotional landscape and developing healthy coping mechanisms. Remember, seeking help is a sign of strength, not weakness. It takes courage to admit that you need help and to reach out for support. The lotus flower is a powerful symbol in Buddhism, representing the potential for transformation and enlightenment. The lotus grows in muddy waters, yet it emerges from the mud, pure and radiant. Our emotions are like the mud, messy, uncomfortable, and sometimes even painful. But it is through navigating these challenging emotions that we can cultivate wisdom, compassion, and inner peace. The lotus reminds us that even in the midst of darkness, there is always the possibility of light. The mud provides the nutrients that the lotus needs to grow and flourish. Similarly, our difficult emotions can provide valuable lessons and opportunities for growth. Anger can teach us about our boundaries, fear can teach us about our courage, and sadness can teach us about our capacity for empathy. These emotions are not obstacles to be overcome, but rather ingredients that contribute to our overall well-being. The lotus emerges from the darkness of the mud and blossoms in the sunlight. Similarly, we can emerge from the darkness of our suffering and find joy, peace, and meaning in our lives. It takes courage, perseverance, and a willingness to embrace the messy parts of ourselves. It requires us to face our shadows and integrate them into our wholeness. The lotus is admired for its beauty, purity, and fragrance. Similarly, when we transform our suffering, we can radiate compassion, wisdom, and inner peace to the world. Our experiences become a source of strength and inspiration for others. We become beacons of light, showing others the way to navigate their own emotional landscapes. Emotional liberation is not a one-time event. It's an ongoing journey. There will be times when you feel overwhelmed by your emotions, times when you stumble and fall. But don't despair. Remember that every step you take towards awareness and compassion is a step in the right direction. Be patient with yourself, be kind to yourself, and never give up on the possibility of healing and transformation. The path to inner peace is not always easy, but it is always worth it. Set the intention to approach your emotions with curiosity, compassion, and acceptance. This intention will guide your actions and help you stay on track, even when things get difficult. It's like setting a compass. It will help you navigate even the most challenging terrain. Treat yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer to a dear friend. Remember that you are worthy of love, compassion, and acceptance, even when you are struggling. You are a precious and unique being, deserving of all the good things in life. Recognize that you are not alone in your suffering. All beings experience difficult emotions. By cultivating compassion for yourself, you are also cultivating compassion for others. We are all interconnected, sharing the same human experience. As you cultivate emotional awareness and compassion, you will begin to experience the joy of liberation. You will no longer be a slave to your emotions. You will be free to live your life with greater peace, purpose, and meaning. You will discover the boundless joy that comes from living in harmony with yourself and the world around you. Our emotional landscape is a dynamic and ever-changing realm. By embracing the wisdom of the Buddha and cultivating practices of mindfulness, compassion, and self-acceptance, we can navigate this landscape with greater skill and grace. We can transform our suffering into beauty, our challenges into opportunities, and our emotions into allies on the path to liberation. Remember, the journey is not always easy, but it is always worth it. The seeds of peace and happiness lie within you, waiting to be nurtured and brought to full bloom. Beloved friends, as we reach the shores of this sharing, take a moment to let the insights settle within your heart. Remember, the path to emotional freedom isn't about erasing our feelings, but about befriending them, recognizing their wisdom, and allowing them to flow like the waters of a sacred river. Just as the lotus blossoms from the mud, so too can we find beauty and growth within our most challenging emotions. With mindfulness, compassion and unwavering self-acceptance, we can transform our suffering into a catalyst for profound awakening. We hope that in this video, you found new meaning of life and peace within your heart.